Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the completely fascinating and honestly kind of hidden economics of the global supply chain. Specifically, we're looking at the surprising reality of modern trucking. Think about it. If you look around the room you're sitting in right now, almost everything you see, your furniture, your electronics, even the materials building the walls around you, well, they spent a good chunk of their life inside a commercial truck. The efficiency, the engineering, and ultimately the cost of these massive machines literally dictate the underlying prices of our entire modern world. But there's a really interesting hidden dynamic at play in the industry right now. It's this strange balancing act between mind-boggling price tags and the actual everyday experience of the drivers who pilot them. So, we're going to unpack the source material today to show you exactly where the money is actually going in modern freight. Let's get into it. All right, let's talk about the staggering sticker shock here. Modern heavy-duty trucks are, quite frankly, incredibly expensive machines. They require an absolutely immense capital investment from fleet owners and independent operators alike. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars for a single cab. That's enough to make literally any accountant sweat. And because, as we just talked about, everything you buy arrived on one of these machines, the massive loans taken out to purchase them directly impact the margins on, well, everything. Now, you might be thinking when a piece of industrial equipment costs that much money, you'd naturally assume that every single square inch of it radiates premium quality, right? You'd expect a massive investment to yield an experience that feels undeniably expensive. But here is the glaring contradiction we found in the source material. Despite costing more than a luxury sports car, or honestly, even a starter home in a lot of markets, the end users driving these vehicles report a surprisingly cheap tactile experience. We're talking about the folks spending 10, maybe 11 hours a day inside these cabs. The very people interacting with the machine report that the physical touch points, the dashboards, the switches, the door panels, they just don't match that monumental price tag attached to the vehicle. It feels, for lack of a better word, cheap. And that brings us to a massive structural question about modern manufacturing. Which leads us to part one of our explainer, the big truck paradox, state of the art versus cheap. To actually solve this mystery, we really have to contrast what's visible to the naked eye with what is happening entirely out of sight. On one hand, you have the driver's immediate reality, right? Oceans of hard plastic, hollow-sounding door panels, maybe some rattling cup holders. It's the highly visible, sometimes humorous, but often frustrating reality of sitting in the cab. But on the other hand, there's what you are actually paying for. The insanely advanced drivetrain, the millions of lines of code, the invisible mechanics working behind the scenes to move 80,000 pounds of freight across the country. The paradox exists because, well, our human brains judge value by what we can physically touch. But the trucking industry, they assign value based entirely on what the machine can actually do. Moving into part two, high prices, cheap interiors. It's all about that tactile disconnect. And honestly, this totally validates the frustration of the truck driver. I mean, imagine signing a financing agreement for an unprecedented, record-high sticker price, stepping up into your shiny, new mobile office, and just being greeted by an abundance of rigid, scratchy plastic. There is a profound disconnect between the astronomical financial cost of the machine and the tactile feel of actually driving it. For a driver whose entire livelihood and really their daily comfort is tied to this space, a cab that feels like a budget-conscious afterthought, yeah, that feels like a betrayal. But here's the thing, the manufacturers aren't just hoarding the cash and skimping on the interior for no reason. The money is absolutely being spent. It's just being diverted away from the driver's hands and pushed deep down into the belly of the machine. So let's look at part three, inside 10-speed transmissions. This is exactly where the money goes. We really have to define what exactly these modern 10-speed transmissions are doing differently than legacy models to justify their massive, massive share of the vehicle's total cost. Back in the day, a transmission was this purely mechanical beast, completely mastered by the driver's own skill and timing. Today, though, a modern 10-speed truck transmission is a highly advanced computer-optimized drivetrain. Its primary purpose isn't just to change gears anymore. It's designed to maximize hidden performance and, most importantly, squeeze out every single possible drop of fuel efficiency. Think about it. When a fleet is buying 1,000 trucks, a tiny 2% increase in fuel efficiency is worth infinitely more to the bottom line than a nice leather-wrapped steering wheel. So the sheer cost of the truck is heavily weighted toward these hidden computer brains and the precision-engineered metals that follow their commands. And this invisible engineering happens in three distinct, fascinating steps. First up, the transmission constantly reads real-time load data. It literally knows whether the truck is pulling 20,000 pounds of feathers or 80,000 pounds of solid steel, and it knows the exact incline of the road ahead. Second, it calculates the optimal shifting logic in mere fractions of a second, deciding exactly when and how to shift to maintain momentum while burning the absolute minimum amount of diesel. And third, it executes precise mechanical shifts perfectly every single time without ever getting tired. This invisible, robotic perfection, that's the luxury you're paying for instead of premium interior materials. This brings us to part 4, performance over plastic. Let's talk about economic reallocation. When you actually break down the cost split of a modern truck, you start to realize that the quote-unquote cheap feeling inside the cab isn't a failure of manufacturing at all. No, it's a highly intentional reallocation of funds. A massive, massive portion of investment goes straight into efficiency and mechanics. This is your advanced 10-speed transmission, your aerodynamic body paneling, your crazy complex emissions control systems. Compare that huge chunk to the tiny sliver left over for the cab and the touch points. At the end of the day, fleet buyers dictate the market. And fleet buyers, they purchase trucks on a spreadsheet. They're analyzing cost per mile, uptime, and full savings. They absolutely do not buy trucks based on the acoustic resonance of a plastic dashboard panel. The industry has basically ruthlessly stripped cost out of the visible interior to fund this invisible, hyper-efficient drivetrain. So, I'll leave you with this final kind of provocative thought to consider about the future of industrial design. As we look at these massive machines, we really have to ask, has the relentless pursuit of mechanical performance and fuel efficiency permanently killed the era of heavy-duty craftsmanship? As the sensors get smarter and the drivetrains get more and more expensive, will the human space inside the machine just continue to be treated as an economic afterthought? It's a truly fascinating look at how the pursuit of pure efficiency continues to shape the machines that quietly power our modern world. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, keep your eyes open the next time you see one of these high-tech plastic giants rolling down the highway.